If your company is using some form of Bossware, you need to be on the lookout. So Bossware is basically just a way of describing surveillance tools that companies will use to track employee productivity. And it seems that with the rise of remote work, Bossware has become more and more prevalent in the workforce. Companies are unsure of how to monitor remote work, how to compare that back to in-office work. And so Bossware has become a popular topic in recent times. But it has people worried. Are companies just spying on you? Is it an overreach by companies? And then what should you as an employee do if you find out your company is using Bossware? And that's what we're going to talk about on today's walk. So what is Bossware? The term Bossware is really just a generic term used for various surveillance tools that companies will use either in the office. They may load it onto your laptop or PC that you're using if you work remotely. And it's basically a way for them to track productivity of their employees. And some even take into account interactions with your laptop. I don't know if you've ever seen those silly tools that you set your mouse in it and it moves the mouse around. In theory, that's supposed to make it seem as if you're at your laptop when you're really not. I'm not sure that really matters. I don't know that companies are monitoring the movements of your mouse as much as they're monitoring how much work you're getting done, things of that nature. But in theory, that's one way that some people try to combat this surveillance aspect. It seems that from an employee perspective, it goes in a lot of different ways, from indifferent to irate. Some people feel like it is just tracking productivity, no big deal. Other people feel like it's spying, it's an overreach by these companies to do this. And so the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, as it does with most topics like this. When it comes to Bossware, I myself am torn on the topic. I absolutely love productivity. I think there are very few things in your career that can lead to more success than good productivity. At the same time, though, it does feel a little excessive to be monitoring your employees to this level. If you've ever worked in an office, then you know it's not always easy to track productivity of office jobs. Sometimes your work doesn't have a final product or a deadline. So tracking it, being able to quantify productivity could actually benefit a lot of office workers. The reason I'm torn on it, though, is that I'm not entirely sold that productivity is the end goal. A lot of times it seems to me that it's just being used to spy on associates. Additionally, I do not trust most leaders to even be able to quantify what productivity means, particularly in office or remote jobs. Not every job has final products and deadlines. So how would you even track productivity? One issue is it used consistently? If it really is about productivity, but you only use it on remote workers, what sense does that make? Are you really testing productivity? Why would you not want to know the productivity of your in-office staff? Seems suspect to me. So, while I would like to have productivity tracked, I don't really know that that's the end goal here. I don't know that companies are really using this specifically for productivity. I don't know that they would even know how to quantify productivity. And the inconsistency with which they use it makes me think it's more about just tracking employees rather than actually looking at productivity. So, to the question at hand, if you find out your company is using Bossware of some sort, what should you do? Do your job well and then look for another place of employment. That's my advice. Do your job well so they can't get rid of you. You can stay employed while you look for another job. Now, I'm going to be honest, as with everything on this channel, that advice is based on my personal opinion. But I believe that trust is a major deal. If you don't have trust, the relationship's never going to be strong. And the way that this bossware is often used feels like spying to me. That's particularly true if only remote workers have it. If in-office staff is not also being tracked, there's no way you can convince me it's really about productivity, because you know that boss in the office is not personally tracking all the in-office staff to see their productivity. They're going to turn in reports the same way you are. So why would remote workers need additional tracking that in-office workers don't actually need? I've spent most of my career writing job descriptions. So I know most jobs don't have any kind of productivity factors to them. A lot of times when you're writing jobs with these leaders, it's hard for them to even identify what the expectations of an employee is. So the idea that those same leaders are then going to use some computer software to identify if expectations are being met or not, and then what level of productivity is resulting from that, is insane. They barely understand what they want the job to be. The idea that they're going to find some way of tracking productivity within that job is a stretch. And then my last concern as an HR employee, I know that companies never collect data for no reason. There is no data collection method out there where a company is just doing it for no reason. They're obviously going to use all that information for something. And when you're using information like that, all it takes is a poor misunderstanding of the information, a terrible misinterpretation of what that information is telling you, for a boss to fire a really good employee that they think is not productive, whether that employee is or isn't productive. At the end of the day, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that every time someone uses this software that it's for bad reasons. I love productivity. I wish productivity could be tracked better, because I think it would help out those of us who are highly productive, especially in jobs where it's hard to quantify productivity. However, I'm also skeptical, and I think that you should always work in the best interest of you. You should always look out for you. And a tracking system like this just screams sketchy, and I'm just not sure how much trust I would give the system or the people who are going to be using the data that the system produces for them. But either way, I think a good company does not need to have Bossware. And if they do, it should be used for everybody in the organization, not just remote workers. So that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. If your company is using Bossware, I would try to find another job. But in the meantime, do the best that you can. Hope that helps. And I will see you guys in the next one.